There we go. Where's Lauren ahead?
Okay,
Lauren?
perfect.
Lauren, can you see Lauren?
No,
Okay,
no,
so
she isn't here.
okay, well, first of all, welcome on behalf of the VR Business Club, today's VR cast. We've just lost our presenter, Lauren Xandra. She was just standing next to me, so that's kind of virtual. She doesn't know hyper virtual. Yeah, I'm not sure where she is. There's someone coming. No, that's Timur. Okay, I don't know where she is now. She was just here. So she's basically, let me start with the introduction and then hopefully she comes back. Lauren is the VP research of the National Research Group. And they do some really interesting research. And I think a really fresh reminder in today's time is to have some actually real specific and real data and also presented in a very professional way. Oh, she's saying I got locked out. Oliver, can you help her?
Sorry?
Lauren just said she's outgelockt worden.
She had to restart maybe the application then.
Okay, yeah. I'll text her. That's strange. Yeah, so I had some problems before. I had no legs. I had to go back. So here's someone, Chris, also has no legs left. So I think what I really liked when I saw Lauren's work was her really professional research and also how it's represented. And she just came out with a very new piece of research which relates nicely to the current situation around COVID and we see here to us. There she is. Welcome back, Lauren.
Hi. Sorry.
Hey. Good to have you. Good to have you back. So I'll just start with the introduction. So if you can come to my left, and then we can get started. Just kind of go over there to the left, where you can operate actually the screen. So I already introduced you as the VP National Research Group, and I said that you do some really interesting research, and especially some brand new research which you are going to present, which fits nicely into that situation. So how the values are changing, how the way we operate, and the opportunities for technology. And you can ask questions, otherwise we have time for questions and answers at the end. And Lauren, kind of the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So as Michael introduced, our research firm is really at the intersection of entertainment and technology. And since February, we've been tracking the impact of coronavirus on consumer behaviors in 13 countries around the world. So today I'm going to zero in on one key shift that we're looking at here in the US, how in the process of disrupting the way that we work, interact, and live, the coronavirus is also leading Americans to reappraise their relationship with technology. So in this presentation, we'll walk through kind of the why behind how consumers are hitting refresh on their relationship with technology and what that means for creators and developers in the immersive space. So in the face of immense tragedy and chaos and disruption, COVID-19 is really changing the way societies around the world think, work, and support one another, accelerating our digital transformation. Economic crisis. the same majority is turning inwards and reflecting on what's important to them. The most effective tech experiences are not only solving for inefficiencies in our work from home norm, but also helping us be better as people and as a society. So we'll go into how this kind of tech is helping us to be better. Oops, I keep losing our screen. Sorry, one moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
You probably transported yourself.
Yeah. Common issue. Okay, I think I got it. Great.
Ah, yeah, good. Mm-hmm.
So, with about 77% of people currently feeling moderately or highly anxious in light of hardship and uncertainty, crisis moments also present a revived appreciation for what really matters. Rather than going into autopilot and sinking into unhealthy behaviors, we're responding to this unprecedented pause on life as an opportunity to better ourselves. Forget FOMO. People are now fearing not being productive. We're getting back in touch with our goals. And the number one need state across all generations is productivity, followed by the need for safety. And the two are intertwined given the economic climate. And this is reflected in changing behaviors.
Lost your voice. Lauren, we lost your voice. So, yes, again, yeah.
Okay, great. So in this visual here, we asked consumers how they're allocating their time and what they're doing more of. And we see that 92% are turning more to wellness and self-care to feel productive. And about 89% are leaning into more entertainment when they need to escape. And 83% are reaching out and communicating with others more to stay connected. Winning experiences right now offer some combination of both. Think about how Beat Saber usage is rising for its combination of exercise, fitness, and entertainment escape in this particular moment. And these aren't just temporary elixirs. The biggest proof point is in how much value consumers are finding in their new habits. Many habits are proving to be worthwhile, and consumers want to continue doing them even after the pandemic subsides, with tech as an enabler for these experiences. So critically, we see new solutions emerging to solve for pain points experienced by professionals in adapting to a new work from home norm. The top three being distress, loneliness, and missed access to devices at work. Challenges felt by the entire new work from home ecosystem are amplified when we look to the youngest generation, Gen Z. Gen Zers struggle to disconnect from the tech, citing irritation from too much screen time and bad work-life balance well ahead of any other group. This impacts mental health, with nearly half of Gen Z saying that staying home all day makes them depressed. Further, they tend to lack the necessary technical and environmental setup to be as productive. In just the past month, Gen Z, the most kind of digitally savvy generation, went from being the least well adjusted to finding new hacks, with about a third now cooking, meditating, and exercising for the first time. They're searching for self-regulation and control in a world where science fiction has become nonfiction, if you will. Gen X, on the other hand, has much more preparatory experience under their belt, having lived through layoffs and significant hardship with the Great Recession and possessing deeper work experience in general. They're the most kind of pro work from home demographic and much more self-sufficient. They don't mind staying inside for long periods of time, and they cite the benefits of freedom and convenience. So craving safety in the face of uncertainty, they plan to continue talking to loved ones more and staying informed by watching and reading the news. So as creators and developers, it's critical to understand real pain points we can solve for and to develop for the long haul. The longer the situation lasts, the more pervasive effective solutions will be. And so we'll go into some of those solutions and potential audiences as well. So at a foundational level, we really need better communication. Solutions that enable live and asynchronous collaboration are key to maintaining focus and fostering better results through enhanced creativity and connection. Oops, sorry. I keep the clicking. It's not going too well. Okay. The crossing the chasm to virtual is going to require a much bigger shift in how business is done. So next generation virtual environments are really moving away from the niche and gaining mainstream momentum, with nearly 7 in 10 professionals interested in hands-free screens on the go. So things like, ideally holographic screens that you would have anywhere, enabling real-time collaboration with anyone, virtual events, like of course where we are now. This concept of documenting memories from your experience, this is kind of borrowed from the messaging of snap lenses, where you can document your experience and share it with others from your perspective as if they were really there, using something like MR glasses. Interactive learning and skill development, we've all seen huge surge there. And then this idea of removing language barriers, people would find useful too. And we'll dive into.
No, you're gone again. Yeah, now you're back again. Yeah.
Okay, great. And we'll dive into some of the addressable audiences.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating, isn't it, to see the massive impact. So in terms of your research, is that kind of opening almost like the floodgates, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. We certainly see it that way. Even a few months ago when we studied demand for these experiences, the need is fairly niche. Experiences, especially when we think virtual events, social VR was a popular notion among teens, but even kind of blurred into more niche domains when we look to slightly older audiences. And now, just being 7 in 10 professionals in America would find these useful, not only exciting, but useful, presents an opportunity for this kind of killer use case to emerge that so many of us have been waiting for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really lifting the capability and experiences with these digital technologies, on a different level, and that provides new opportunities for this industry to do something and grab these opportunities and further develop solutions.
Absolutely. And we see, especially one of course substantial audience for this technology is Gen Z, who values more meaningful collaboration solutions and is really excited about the potential that AR and VR presents. This technology actually has a very big base of Gen Zers, with about 40% identifying as users of both AR and VR. They're just waiting for the experiences. And when we consider how nearly half of Gen Z doesn't have what they need to work at home, they don't have the right environmental setup, There are some solutions that are really fascinating to solve for that. Think about Spaces, for example, which lets someone in VR use a virtual camera as their web camera and to make use of equipment that's not available in their real world environment, such as a VR whiteboard. This could be very useful. And more broadly, environments like the one that we're in present really viable opportunities to engage these younger employees.
Very good. I think the connection from California, though, we are next to the Golden Gate Bridge. It seems that the connection is dropping in and out. Are you, Lauren, can you hear us? There you're back. So we lost you for about kind of a couple of seconds now again.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry for that.
That's okay. So I just said we're standing next to the Golden Gate Bridge, so we are not far away from Los Angeles, actually.
Yes. The amazing thing about this environment. It's bringing us all much closer together.
Yes,
and
yeah.
we certainly see that, as well when we look to experiential use cases, the value of these experiences being a sense of genuine connection and participation, virtual meditation, virtual meetups. These are all, of course, gaining big momentum in this moment. That's likely to stick. E-learning. The need for e-learning is sudden and significant, presenting a very sizable opportunity for virtual solutions, from families adjusting to school closures to medical professionals continuing to practice important procedures from remote locations. Some examples I find really valuable are Google Expeditions AR Pioneer Program, letting teachers guide students through collections of 360 scenes and 3D objects, bringing abstract concepts to life. And further, across broader research that I've done in AR and VR, the key benefit of learning use cases ties back to this notion we talked earlier about around self-improvement. So we'll see a trend towards fitness and other apps where you're able to chart your progress in virtual environments. And then another use case I'd like to spotlight is around industrial. So in-person businesses are turning to VR and 3D formats to approximate real-life interactions. In-person businesses, of course, require a big practical shift in how business is done. And so this group, ranging from hospitality professionals to warehousing, manufacturing, essential supply chain workers, find it most useful to engage in traveling anywhere in the world in VR. So the same way we're by the San Francisco Bridge now, the concept of visiting remote sites as if you were there has real value. 3D object identification and training to improve workflow processes across automation, industrial, and retail industries by engaging with 3D objects virtually in real time. And then holographic communication, or communicating in real time to get close to real and social exchange. And already we've seen kind of a big uptick in the companies leveraging computer vision and creating the tools they need for object identification through Unity and other programs.
Yeah, very interesting. I had today an interesting conversation about consulting in the future, because that was always supposed to be on site with the client. Yeah, and now, I mean, most of the work is done remote as well. How do you see those jobs and professions, which are typically very, also kind of where it's used to be kind of out of question, to do that in a remote fashion?
It's a great question, and something that will probably impact all of us here. I think the expectation for in-person will decrease significantly. Already when I'm going to meetings in Menlo Park with Facebook and Google and others, who is going to be in the meeting is a total mystery. And there are usually at least a sizable group is represented online already, kind of tuning in from anywhere. And I think soon that we won't be apologetic for that. Right now, there's kind of a cultural norm sorry, I couldn't be there, as if it were better to have been there. I think not being there will soon be just as acceptable, and particularly as technology evolves, so that we're more present while we're further away. So already we see a ton of creativity kind of seeping into our virtual remote communications. Things like snap filters or making business calls, these kind of gatherings of donuts and alpacas, right? There was a viral video recently of someone's boss accidentally transformed into a potato that became very popular. And while all of that might seem silly, of course, work is inviting in more play and self-expression. And I think we're starting to develop the tools to be able to see our colleagues and other people's kind of whole selves online. And that's a really fundamental step in making, in our ability to maintain relationships at a distance, and will help kind of further this trend towards less need and reliance on in-person. And while in some respects the in-person might be missed, the less we have of it, it also really opens up opportunities for more global connection and global opportunities for talent that I think is really meaningful.
Absolutely. I think especially when you combine that with the language, the falling language barriers.
Yes.
Where you can have, everybody speaks their language and then the other person still understands that fluently. I think we're not far away from that either.
Yes, that's a very good point. It would be wonderful if when we were talking, things were automatically captioned and translated. That would really make this just even more open. So I'd love to think towards what people are excited about to see on the other side of the curve and where technology can play a part. Oops. Did it come up?
I see a white board. I don't know. How are you? I can't see the slide yet. There we go. Yeah. No, there were.
Okay,
There
great.
it is. Yeah.
Perfect. So kind of beyond productivity tools, we see that 2 in 3 Americans are excited about how tech can accelerate positive trends we want to see on the other side of the curve. And these are the 3 big areas we see. One is around a more productive, efficient, and informed society. So solutions we mentioned were things like grocery apps that could update on stock in real time, enabling us to be more efficient, more effective. A more collaborative global workforce and communities. We spoke to ideas like meeting spaces like these, social communities that could form and support each other in the workplace, in the real world, in cultural movements, and then innovations in healthcare, from smartwatches detecting early signs of sickness to supercomputers running disease simulation. We're seeing big innovations emerge out of this moment that we hope will continue. And then lastly, we're seeing a big kind of, we want to think towards what the work environment of the future might be. This shift presents a real pivot from the physical workspace to the virtual. And the physical workspace kind of tends to be, in its very nature, optimized for control, command, and consensus. We're able to, in the open floor plan, the manager is able to see what the employee is doing at all times. We're moving more to the ultimate open workspace, a space where new values are emerging that center on openness and transparency and trust. So we see this as an opportunity for people to really tap into a new sense of values. One is around self-care. Never has it been clearer that self-care is intertwined with productivity. So savvy employers will maintain an eye towards mental health. Authenticity, what we were talking about moments ago, the workspace is becoming much more playful, a space where people are able to kind of come as they are and play as they want. And it's also a space for freedom, much more open for trust and creativity to be imbued in our today, when we're able to be at home with our loved ones, tuning in our pajamas. It's a very different environment to be optimizing experiences for. And so I'd love to get any questions and to talk further with you, Michael, here.
Yeah, Lauren, thank you so much. First of all, let's give a big hand. I think there's a lot, and I think it's really refreshing, to see how positive a lot of the things are, and especially this kind of looking at individual wellness and the fitness and the meditation, all of that. I think is really positive to see, so that something very positive comes out of this challenging time. But I want to open the floor now for questions. If you just kind of raise your hand, or I unmuted you, so you can actually ask your question straight away if you like. Is someone flying? Pascal, are you flying?
So me, maybe, if I may. No, I just wonder your opinion on these platforms. I mean, right now we're meeting in Old PR, right? Old Space, which is, I mean, used to be the biggest one, and then it failed for certain reasons. But now we're back here, and it seems to be one of the solutions. But like, if we look around, I'm sure our kids will laugh, at least in 3 to 5 years, at the graphical state that we need to, be in. Don't you think that's also a major deal breaker right now? Like these very crude representation of our bodies and our gestures and whatnot. And that's kind of like a very limiting factor, I find.
I certainly agree. I mean, this moment arrived before we are ready for it. It's like the shift that was meant to be coming in some years' time is just around the corner, and our tools can't catch up fast enough. I think because of that, in a way, we're kind of guiding the change, and our tools are catching up. So people are becoming are humbled by what technology cannot yet do. And thus, like, the kind of funny, silly representations are more popular because they feel closer to what's real. I think these kind of the more uncanny attempts at reproducing life where the graphics are not up to quality are not as effective, because it's just, it feels inauthentic, it feels not real. And I think that's kind of a temporary Band-Aid solution where platforms can embrace silliness and lean into the lo-fi aesthetics like snap filters or our kind of crude avatars here. But it doesn't have, I think there will be a certain level of fatigue that emerges until we're able to increase the quality. And what's interesting too is I think there are certainly different expectations for quality among users and non-users. In general, in our research, we find quality matters much more, of course, to users. And so I think if you're imagining being in this space for the first time, there's a certain level of magic that is still very real for professionals entering these environments, but that needs to continue evolving to sustain its newfound audience.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. Thanks, Timo, for the question. I think I would make the point that imagine that would have happened 3, 4, 5 years ago. Where we are I think in a much better shape than we were before, or even before. Without smartphones and good internet connection and WhatsApp and all these video calls. I think that would be a lot more challenging. So I think we have a certain level of maturity, and I agree. I mean, these kind of spaces, they're a little bit too early, but that's I think that will give us really that trigger to further advance that. and further develop that. Maybe one question from my side, Lauren. How do you see that after COVID-19, if there's an after, how much are we going back to where we were before? Do you have a perspective on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the world is going to be fundamentally different in many respects. I think it's such a big, profound change culturally. Just the recognition that this can happen, right? I think we're really humbled by this knowledge that things are not. We can't take things for granted in the way that we had. And I think to an extent we will gradually return, but certain habits will be adopted that will be too difficult to shake. One, because we really like them, and then two, because of how long they will become these kind of embodied practices. So when we see how, for example, we spoke earlier about how the youngest audiences, Gen Z, who we spoke with, a third are meditating, exercising, cooking for the first time, these behaviors where they're really learning how to take care of themselves, and that they tell us that they're really enjoying those experiences. They hope those will stick. I think that does increase the likelihood that they will, and that's generally something that we see because it's yielding these favorable results. And while the conditions might change to not be as favorable towards, let's say, meditating before work, I think employers are going to have to follow our lead the same way our tools will have to adapt to embrace these new habits that are forming.
Right, thank you. Thanks. Other questions from the audience? Yeah, there's a question. Michael.
Yes, Lauren, one question regarding mixed reality. How big do you see the potential of mixed reality in connecting people together? Because as far as up until now, we have only been talking about virtual reality, but mixed reality so far has only caught on in the industry. However, it has, in my opinion, a very huge potential in establishing telepresence. For instance, if you can beam someone in mixed reality right into our living room or into our facility site, whatever, by either tracking their movements inside out with the mixed reality headset or from the outside using 3D cameras, all the technology is already there. It's just not yet widespread. So how big do you see potential in this regard, and on which time horizon?
That's a really wonderful question. I appreciate it. I think it kind of brings us to one of the use cases we were talking about earlier about the potential for immersive tech to kind of approximate real life interactions, and I think that's kind of the pinnacle of what could be. It really is so necessary for these in-person businesses that is not a small use case whatsoever. It's really the majority of businesses require these real life interactions, whether that's across workflow processes or it's just about how they're collaborating with other workers, with their clients. And I think there's no question of the demand, but the capabilities of the industry are lagging behind. And I know many of us were saddened by the Magic Leap news this week, and it would really take kind of a magic leap to be able to pull off such a feat. And we'll see, I think the development of technologies like MR, of course, also rely on convergence of other tech ecosystems and AI and 5G. And so I think the tech titans at large can help us realize that vision, but the path there is not clear enough.
Okay, thanks for your review.
Thank you. Thanks. Other questions?
Just
No?
one maybe again. Sorry if no one
Sure.
else-
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
just about the
Absolutely.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Just Lauren, lovely talk and everything. So maybe just quickly, would you mind sharing a bit more about what the National Research Group does? Like in particular, also maybe in regards to XR and your position? Because, I mean, we got that lovely intro, but I'm sure there's much more to tell about you and what you're doing.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. Sure. So National Research Group is actually, it was founded about 40 years ago, and we're a global insights firm whose clients are all the Hollywood studios, the AAA gaming studios, the leading streaming platforms like Netflix and Hulu, and consumer technology. And in my role, leading our innovation team, I help us to move into new categories and to help our clients think about the impact of emerging technology on content and culture. The work that we're sharing here is all public and part of broader thought leadership that we're doing to help emerging industries evolve and to help our clients to continue to innovate. Earlier this year, we did quite a big study in partnership with Verizon and our lab, which is a really fascinating spatial computing think tank in New York that partners with universities and has kind of a whole set of startups. And that study was looking at 5G and spatial computing, and in it, beyond kind of testing the landscape for AR and VR, which we did extensively, we looked a lot at current and next generation use cases and tried to gauge future potential. And we assessed use cases both in how exciting they were and how useful they could be. And thinking that some combination of those metrics would create more sticky experiences for the industry. And so we've continued to kind of track demand and track the space. And this most recent study that I'm sharing today, I think just reflects a huge shift in perceptions and in demand for these experiences. And we try to think about immersive tech as part of the broader tech conversation. And I think it is important to consider it in that light. One of the directions we're planning to build on this study is to better understand how perceptions of big tech are changing and how that's affecting our position on things like data privacy and what trade-offs we're willing to make for better experiences. And that really affects us as immersive creators and as people who are kind of advocates for spatial computing at large. Consumers are aware of the trade-offs being asked of them when there would be cameras everywhere, when we would have out-of-home MR experiences and AR. And so what's exciting is the research that we're doing in emerging tech and immersive tech in particular is really informed by this broader understanding that we have on the tech ecosystem and on expectations for content. So it's really across kind of services and hardware research.
But your clientele is mostly from media and entertainment, I take it, or could also be an industrial client?
Yeah, it's really primarily from media and entertainment and consumer technology clients. But we, particularly with the thought leadership work, we want to make sure that that the work is reflecting broader consumer needs and value, and says something about culture now that we hope has adjacencies with other industries too. And I'm more than happy to share this research, our work on 5G and XR. We've done research on other emerging formats too, like visual search, voice, that I'd be more than happy to share, and that run deeper. This is kind of an early look at a new piece today.
That would be appreciated. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. So would we, I mean, we could make this for download available, or this latest research?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, we'll do that like the last time, which is great. Any other questions? Here's one. Yep.
Yeah, hi. I have a question concerning like the medical implications. Now that, I mean, it would be ideal, the VR technology to educate children. Do you know of any ongoing studies, if there's any medical implications? I mean, I still have mixed feelings when I put the headset on my 8-year-old for a longer time, so I won't do it just a few minutes at a time. Is there any studies you're doing at the moment, or you know of?
And just to clarify, studies on like the kind of long-term effects of children,
if due of because of Corona, like children may be exposed to longer periods of using VR sets. If there's any new studies, because there was this, it's a few years ago, I guess, about that the eyes are not still fully developed in children, so it could be difficult to use headsets for a longer period of time. If there's any new studies in that area.
That's a great question. It's not something I'm not sure the answer to that, if there are studies on that, though of course it's really important right now with e-learning modules being developed and some of them having a virtual component. I do think beyond the physical effects, which are very important to consider, we've done a lot of research in the gaming space, and I published a report recently on Fortnite, and there are always concerns about share of time being spent on entertainment platforms, and concerns about that time not being productive or not being healthy or being addictive. And it's kind of a tale as, that aspect of it is kind of a tale as old as time. And I'm sure as you've experienced as someone who loves and learns from these platforms, there's so many ancillary benefits. Many consumers are really, especially kids, are learning who they are in spaces like this, being able to creatively experiment with identity and expression and communication. And I think one thing that we found when we looked at, say, Fortnite as a platform, and kids being able to be their avatar, change moment to moment, that was often kind of described in the same breath as social media and as the foil to social media, where it's competitive, it's about status, your identity is fixed. In platforms like Fortnite and others where kids are alternative versions of themselves, they were learning really valuable coping skills that would serve them throughout their life. And that's kind of a tangential answer, of course, because I don't know about that particular research, but I think it's important to consider in light of these other developmental benefits too.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks. Other questions? Anyone else? No? So then I have one last question, Lauren, for you.
Sure.
So what's the one question nobody has asked you before, but you think it should be asked?
That's a wonderful question. I'm going to need to think about it. I think so. I think there's a lot of questions to be asked around what the future of communication and collaboration might look like. And one of the most kind of informative conversations I've had is with a friend from the Microsoft garage who writes a lot about emotional AI. And I think when our technology becomes smarter, what that means is it will better understand our needs, our very human needs, and be able to adapt in a way that's kind of platform agnostic. So the way Steve Jobs describes this is as the continuation of content universes, being this kind of magical moment. Like I'm listening to music at home and I open the door to my car and it's already playing that same song. I think that's a big part of it. The future of communication and collaboration being about a certain sense of understanding of context of each individual user. I think it's also about having better formats for understanding. So let's say a 3D virtual format is more appropriate for understanding my schedule. Let's say I like to see it dynamically represented across days, or understand the weather as these moving fluctuations. But when I receive a call, I'm happy for that just to be on the phone in that instance. Soon our tools will evolve to be more automatically responsive to our needs at any given moment, how best we process information, how best we can engage with each other, and with the least interference as possible. And I think that move towards a post-screen world, to me, that's most exciting as the idea that we would be freed up and our technology would truly be more assistive. It would support our needs across our day-to-day without us needing to prompt them, to navigate through multiple screens, to continuously shift between 2D and 3D in a controlled way. And I think that's a kind of a farther afield but exciting future that we can think towards when we're in the now and kind of limited by our current communication tools.
Wonderful. Thank you so much again. Thank you, Lauren. Another big hands from everyone here. And it was great to have you here presenting really the latest research and some very positive outlooks I think we all can take with to our life. And I want to thank you all for being here. Thanks again for participating. Also the live stream which we have on YouTube. So if you want to revisit the content or some of the discussion, then please look at the live stream on YouTube, which will be made available by the VR Business Club. It's my great pleasure and honor to be here with that VR cast, and we have some in the future more very interesting guests ahead of us, and I look forward to that. And until then, I wish Lauren, I wish you a wonderful day. For you, it's very early, and I really appreciate that. And for the most of the rest of us, I think here in Europe, successful Monday and a great week. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, you can stay around and kind of network a little bit and have a chat.